Labvakar visiem, esiet sveicināti pie mums laivā. Šodien mums ir saruna atklāti par, un šodien mēs esam uzaicinājuši sarunu Māru un Dallasu no Amerikas, kas pirms pāris gadiem ir pārvākušies uz Latviju un dzīvo tagad Rīgā. So I made a bit of an introduction about that. Tonight's conversation is atklāti par. It's like openly we're going to talk about Mara and Dallas from America who a few years ago moved to Latvia, Riga. So hello guys, good evening.
Hello.
Mara, you can, if you can, it would be nice if you could speak Latvian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you feel confident, and I know that Dallas, with Dallas, we're going to speak in English, so it will be properly. And we're going to have a comments as well, probably soon from our viewers. So please ask questions, share this video, and we're going to have a good time tonight. So, okay, guys. So, when did you move back to Latvia? Or when you do move, not back, but when did you move to Latvia?
Jā. Mēs pārcēlamies 2019. gadā, augustā. Plāns jau bija iesācies gadu pirms tam. Mans vīrs bija ciemojies Latvijā jau laikam kāds 3 reizes kopš 2010. gada, bet mēs 18. gadā nolēmām, pārcelsimies patstāvīgi uz Latviju, un tad 19. gadā mēs apbraucām.
Okay. Dallas, question to you. You are a proper American. Why did you decide that it would be better to live in Latvia? I know you love your wife. And you have a kid, and it's a family thing, but it's a big step to go from America to such a small country as Latvia.
Yeah. Well, we don't have a child. We are just a couple, and so that does make it a little easier to sort of uproot your life and take a chance like this. The situation really was a little more of the circumstances of the economy, and with the presidential election coming up, I could kind of see in the United States. I know, like a lot of people in the media and in the business community will say, you know, who could have predicted these things would have happened, and they'll list out everything that happened. But I could have listed everything out that was happening at least 2 years before this all took place. And so I was looking to try to do something that was a little different, that was a sort of a defensive move to avoid the problems that I could see coming in the U.S. economy for the year 2020. So towards the end of 2019, we moved here. I have been learning a lot more about Latvia over the 10 years that I've known Mara and her family. And so there was it was sort of a progression of learning about Latvia at first, and then meeting her family and learning about World War II and the diaspora Latvians. And just sort of a progression of every time we would come and visit, there would be a little bit of a more, I would sort of understand and see. And I'm very interested in politics. And so it was just kind of one of those things that became a progression. And one time on the last trip that we came here as visitors, as tourists, we saw the movie of the Baltic Silts, the Baltic tribes. And it was kind of like a master's class for me, where it was the end of 10-year lessons of Latvia, and then seeing the Baltic tribes and the way that it all kind of coalesced around the Northern Crusades and the things of that nature. It just sort of became something that was really interesting, and I thought that maybe I would be able to come here and find a unique position among the politics, or gain a new skill or a new talent that may be valuable as a someone who was in between here in America, you know, that had contacts in America and things like that.
But you have family left in America, don't you?
All of my family, yeah. My family is from America, as far back as we can find records for. And so we haven't, all of my family is there and around Atlanta, Georgia, in a place called Griffin, Georgia, in Athens, Georgia.
Athens, okay. Un Māra, kur tu piedzimi? Tu neesi dzimusi Latvijā?
Nē, es neesmu dzimusi Latvijā. Es dzimu Ņujorkā, pilsētā, un mani vecāki, mana mamma ir latviete. Viņa dzima bēgļu nometnē Vācijā, un viņa ar vecākiem, maniem vecvecākiem apbrauc uz Ameriku 50. gadu sākumā, un mans tēvs ir amerikānis. Tā viņi satikās, un es dzimu Ņujorkā, man ir jaunāka māsa, tā mani vecāki un māsa vēl ar vienu dzīvo ASV.
Un tev mamma negribēja atgriezties Latvijā, nav gatava atgriezties?
Nu, viņi dara to, ko daudz trimtas latvieši dara, ir, ka viņiem tik ilgi tā dzīve bija tur, ka viņi neatstāja to dzīvi, bet arī, ka viņi braukā tur papakaļ, tā mani vecāki pirms pandēmijas vismaz, viņi vismaz, vienreiz, divreiz gadā apbrauc uz Latviju, viņiem te dzīvoklis, mēs esam tādā dzīvoklī, manas ģimenes dzīvoklī, un jā, tā viņi tā braukā tur papakaļ, un strādā tur, bet pavada laiku, cik vien var šeit.
Pirms mēs gājām tiešraidē, Mārta, tu teici, ka tev latviski runājot ir ļoti liels akcents amerikāņu valodā. Es varu pateikt godīgi, ka tev akcents ap citu ļoti maz var just. Tā kā tu ļoti labi.
Paldies!
Jā. Tad jautājums ir tāds, kā tu iemācījies latviešu valodu? Vai tas tiešām ir nācis no tavas mammas puses, ka viņa tev ir mācījusi, vai arī tu gāji kādās latviešu skolās?
Tas noteikti bija man vecāku lēmums un vecvecāku lēmums, ka es zinu, ka mana mamma uzauga un mani vecvecāki nolēma, ka latviešu valodu turpinās runāt, vai ne? Es zinu vairākas ģimenes, kuriem vecvecāki nolēma, ka labāk iejusties jaunā kultūrā, neviens mājās nerunā latviski, bet manā ģimenē bija tieši otrādi. Un tad, kad es esmu vecākā mazmeita, pirmā mazmeita, un bija ļoti svarīgi man turpināt to visu, tā man mājās, bija tā, ka bija jārunā latviski. Kaut tēvs amerikānis, viņam arī bija jāklausās visu latviešu valodā. Mēs runājam, protams, ar tēvu angliski, bet man vienmēr atgādināja, ka es ar māsu mēs tikai drīkstam runāt latviski. Un bērnībā man tā latviešu valoda nebija tik ļoti laba, tāpēc, ka es gāju amerikāņu skolā, es runāju angliski visu laiku, bet es gāju latviešu skolā nedēļas nogalēs, un man ar kādiem 9-10 gadiem es sāku iet nometnē, tur veselu nedēļu vai 2 nedēļas bija jārunā latviski, un tad 10 gadu vecumā es sāku braukt uz Latviju pie radiem un pie ģimenes šeit, un man tieši ar to man uzlabojās tā valoda. Mani vecāki mani ar māsu sūtīt pa vasaru, kad skola nebija, un tad mēs vairākus mēnešus te nodzīvojam un nerunājam angliski, un tā arī mums tā valoda uzlabojās.
Okay, Dallas, question for you. How did you meet Mara in America? And how did you feel about knowing that she's actually a Latvian-speaking girl?
Yeah, well, we met in Asheville, North Carolina. And it's a funny story, actually. I was writing sort of more, I put a thing on the internet as a rant saying that I was done with dating. And she took it as a challenge.
Maybe I should date this person.
I was just tired of like every girl I was going out with. It seemed like there was just some sort of something going on there where they just, you know, they really like the idea of buying beer, or they really like the idea of just paying for stuff. So I was just kind of done with that whole process. And so, yeah.
So when you met me,
that's when I met her. And the idea was basically, like I said, at first it was a progression, and the first stage of that progression was just having a girlfriend that spoke a second language and wasn't quite the same girl that I had normally met, you know, that had seemed like she had more of an education and was involved in a nonprofit called Big Brothers Big Sisters. Mm-hmm. And so there was a charitable component there, and something where I just felt like we could fit together professionally in a sense, and it worked.
Good. I like the challenge what you took, Mara. Yeah, it's all good. So you moved to Latvia nearly 2 years ago, and what do you do now in Latvia?
That's a great question. Es domāju, ka pandēmija ļoti mūsu pielāgošanos iespaidoja. Jā. Jo plāns no sākuma, nu, mēs apraucam bezdarbiem, nu, mēs pārdevam savu māju, un plāns bija apraukt un iejusties un redzēt, nu, kur mums vislabāk aiziet darbā, vai varam investīciju veikt, vai kaut ko tam līdzīgu. Un es iesāku attālināti sniegt angļu valodas kursus, ne latviešiem, bet ķīniešiem, jo tur ir liels pieprasījums, un vienkārši mums tā sanāca, ka pandēmija iesākās, un tā mums nav īpaši sanācis te vietēji atrast kaut kādus darbus, vai te pat ar vietējiem daudz satikties.
Mm-hmm. So, Dallas, how do you feel now in Latvia?
Well, I'm definitely bored. But, you know, I think that's what she's mentioned with the pandemic. It's changed a lot of different things. But it's been really nice to be able to walk around and have this very cultural experience with the old architecture and the old cobblestone streets, and you know, and just learning around about the buildings and having
the art
yeah, and just having a sense of the oldness of the city has been really nice, and to be able to understand the people a little bit more than just to come as a tourist, you know. All of that traffic and all of that noise is down. It's very unusual. Like the city itself of Riga is so quiet you can hear a pin drop. It's like it's so quiet, and it's
compared to the cities we've lived in, for sure.
Yeah, but it's even unusual for Riga, where like during the pandemic, it's just changed, where it used to, you know, the trucks, the traffic, motorcycles going and zipping around the streets. You don't hear anything hardly anymore. And there, you know, like every now and then there'll be a trash truck, you know, and there's still some stuff, but it's just the traffic is just not there. The noise isn't there. And so that's been something that has been unexpected so that like the noise of a city can stress you out. It stresses me out. I'm not a city person. But then when you're in the city and it's just quiet, it's like this thing that'll drive you crazy. I've heard about that before. Like if you go into a closet that doesn't have any noise, that silence can make you go a little batty. And I'm experiencing that here, where it's like you just want some kind of traffic noise or something to be happening,
or some kind of stimulus. People.
or the kids yelling and laughing, and like we'll hear people playing volleyball and stuff like that. Like almost none of that noise is there.
Yeah, we have a school right across the street where we were used to seeing little kids coming to school in the morning, and then in the evening, in the afternoon, there would be people playing sports in the gym. And it was this like wonderful like sense of life and people doing things. And we have Latviešu Universitāte at the end of the street. And so, older students, university students would be walking down the street, and you could just stand at the window and like watch all of this life happening. And for the past year, basically, the street has been completely silent, and it is bizarre.
It's not only in Latvia. Say where we live in the UK, it's exactly the same. Friday, Saturday, say nights used to be so busy, and now about 9 o'clock you go out and you just can walk like a deserted town. It's like a ghost town. There's no one outside, barely any cars driving, or even really you can see people walking. So it's everywhere. And it's kind of quite strange. But then again, Dallas, you've been visiting Latvia since 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Say from your point of view, how people has changed before pandemic, and now you've been in Latvia nearly for 2 years, and unfortunately in pandemic as well.
Mm-hmm.
What's your view on the people? How they react? How they treat each other? What's changed?
Well, I think a lot has sort of slowed down. At first, it was a little bit tense, maybe between the people. Like there was a little bit more tension because there wasn't anyone here. There wasn't. It's like the impression that I got was that there wasn't any visitors, and so people didn't have to be on their best behavior. And so it was like it was just the family. It was just the internal people where we know each other, and that was something where like I'm learning this culture, but also seeing this change because now everyone knows that there's not a lot of outsiders here watching what we're doing. So there's a little bit of a loosening and a little bit of like, now we're going to let you, like, we're going to kind of act like our real selves in a sense. And which is, which isn't terrible. But that was just something I noticed. And the delivery systems for bringing in groceries, doing the food, the restaurants, definitely, like Lido shutting down, so Lido builds all of their locations up, and then all of a sudden everything stops. And so you have these big places where you want to go and get all this food, but they're closed. And so, but you can order it in, but it's just not the same, but there's some things that are better about that, because I think that there's some friction where like people still have a real terrible time around social distancing. They don't seem to have the same sense of space when you're walking down the sidewalk and stuff like that. I get extremely uncomfortable as an American. Just walking down the sidewalk, it's something that, and it's only in Riga, it's not like in Sigulda or Liepāja or, any of these places. I just, because I'm someone who's already out of place, and I feel like I need to be on my best behavior, as an American, as someone who's a visitor and a guest of Latvia, so I can't be that same person of like, hey, well, like kultudari, like, what are you doing? I'm just not gonna be like that. I'm gonna be on my best, on good behavior. And so there's issues where I feel like there's a lot of circumstances where I get challenged a little more than I should on the sidewalk. And sometimes it's not even a challenge. It's just that there's different expectations of space. personal space.
Yeah. What do you most missed from America?
That would be one of them. is the sense of personal space.
Well, and the way people walk around each other on the sidewalk.
Well, and it's, you know, I didn't expect it to be so different with the way that people expect each other to act around each other. So it's like, there's, you know, people say like, don't be sensitive, don't be so sensitive about things or this or that. But it's just different. So if you're raised in a certain way and you have certain expectations, and or just even saying hello, having a smile on my face, like hello, like greetings and stuff like that just doesn't happen. And so like things like that it starts to wear on me over time, and it starts to get to where I need a lot more of that sort of Southern joking and that sort of thing of where people are way more quick to embrace you, even though it may be a little, like, hey, whoa, like I don't want that. But I think that's sort of a different, where it's like in the US, everyone's walking around with a smile on their face, or, if you're nice and if you're happy and if you're in a good place, you're like, hello, how are you doing? It's really good. Here it's more like anything like that is going to be very measured. And so it becomes a thing where it feels like the opportunities become less because the culture communicates less, and has less expectations as far as personal interaction, both good and bad, so that you don't run into so many problems when it's like the saying of more people, more problems. And that's fair. It's just that in a small economy, it seems like you need something else, or you're only going to kind of be stuck with some government jobs and not as many entrepreneurial opportunities as you would have. Like that's like, there's no question about that.
May I ask, what were you doing back in America? What was your occupation? What's your main job was?
Handyman and work as an electrician for the most part.
And build houses.
And building houses, working on houses. I would work for individuals a lot, where homeowners that would have issues, and then I would help them out and work with them to fix whatever problems they had, and then setting up for the future. Like, so things, trying to prepare. And that's what interests me about Latvia is the technology. Mm-hmm. So I'm also involved in different things like hobby interests, and trying to have those hobbies and the skills that I have with remodeling and with working on stuff like
smart
that.
Homes, solar power,
smart homes,
wind power,
yeah, technology,
smart grid, yeah.
But to be able to share that with educators and the educational community through things like makerspace programs. And so the technology aspect of the culture here is extremely interesting. And I find it, just that's a lot of what drew me here, was seeing the new generation and what that new generation is capable of. And just how there's a lot of sophisticated stuff, but it's, it's folded away. It's, it's hard to find once even being here. It's difficult to really understand like how to be involved or to see investment opportunities. Those things are they just seem not to be there. It seems like very individual, where it's, if you do something, you do it, and it gets presented, but it's not a real open, I don't know. There's a lot that's set up for Latvians, which is obviously what it needs to be. So it's hard to say that it doesn't work, because it works for Latvia and works for Latvians. But for me as an outside and like who I would be like an investor, or I would be someone who would be connecting people from this world to another world, or which would like the investor world of America and like Silicon Valley or just average people in America. That doesn't seem to exist. Like it just doesn't seem to be there at all.
Okay, let's go to comments. So my wife's saying, my mom is saying good evening as well, and she said, is there any sound problems only for herself? But there's Inta saying sound is okay. Bible saying the same, sound is all good. And now Dallas, question for you from Christine Flowers. Dallas, can you help me with electrical in Latvia? Well, I'm not trying to be rude, but I don't know any of electricians in Latvia.
Possibly, I'm not sure. We do know some electricians here, but and I'll be honest with you, depends on what the issue is. If it's an older issue, like I'm a little afraid to touch some of this stuff, but I've been learning, and I've gone to the stores and looked at different things, and like I've got all the tools that I need that I have. But when it comes to so the way a lot of this stuff is on 3-phase, and I don't understand a lot of the phase type scenarios that could come about.
It depends on the building and how it's
and the
set
building
up.
itself, because the buildings themselves are very different than American buildings, the ones that I've been on. Anyway, like maybe in some of the older cities like New York, or Baltimore, and Washington D.C., they may be built this way, but in the where I've typically they're not built this way, and so everything here seems to be complicated and baked in to something way more complicated. And so if you touch one thing, it can have a chain reaction that goes into the wall and goes into different parts of the buildings that can make a big mess. But I'd be willing to try.
She lives in the US, buying fixer-upper in LV. I have done my own in the US, but power is stronger in Latvia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this summer she'll be in Latvia, and she will gonna try to find you.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Good. Okay, Māra, ko tu dari Amerikā? Kāda tava dzīve ir Amerikā?
Jā. Nu, es pēc profesijas esmu sociālā darbniece. Es kādu laiku nostrādāju ar jauniešiem Ņujorkā, un tur diezgan sarežģīti izskaidrot, tā es neizskaidrošu, bet es vienkārši teikšu, ka es ar jauniešiem strādāju. Un tad, kad es pārcēlos uz Ziemeļkarolīnu, es arī ar jauniešiem strādāju, bet vairāk tādā veidā, ka doma bija tāda, ka kā var ģimenēm un jauniešiem izpalīdzēt, lai viņi atklāti runā par psihisko veselību un tā tālāk, un lai netiktu uz krīzes punktu. Tā man ieinteresējās strādāt tādā veidā, lai kaut ko pozitīvu iedotu jauniešiem pirms tā laika, ka viņiem grūti paliek. Un es domāju, to, ka es dzīvoju Ņujorkā, un ar to, ka mans darbs bija tāds, ka es sāku ļoti atklāti runāt par terapiju un par garīgo veselību un tā tālāk. Un tad vēlāk man sanāca arī strādāt universitātēs. Un es līdzīgi, mazākā pasniedzēju un vairāk individuāli ar studentiem strādāju, lai viņiem izpalīdzētu izdomāt un saprast, kā iet uz priekšu un kā sniegt kaut kādu galamērķi, kas viņiem bija domātā. To es darīju agrāk, un, kā es teicu, tad, kad es pārcēlos šeit, nu, jā, vienkārši tā sanāca, ka sāku sniegt tās angļu valodas stundas, un tad diezgan ātri mums tā sanāca, ka nu, nebija daudz ko meklēt. Ne ka darbu nav, bet atrast kaut ko, kas ir tieši tavā sfērā, kas jūtās līdzīgi, un arī, kad tu neesi no šejienes un tu kaut ko mēģini saprast, kur man būtu labs darbs un ko es tieši gribu. Vienkārši ar visu to domāšanu nesanāca sadabūt darbu pirms pandēmijas laika. Tā es vienkārši esmu turpinājusi attālināt strādāt, jo tas diezgan viegls to darīt.
Labi. Dallas, earlier you mentioned that you're not a city person. Why are you living in Riga?
Well, like I said, I'm sort of interesting. I'm interested enough, and it's interesting enough to have pulled me in, where I'm at least, it's small enough, and I've lived in, I'm kind of a collector. So I like to collect things. I like antiques. And so like the whole city here is an antique, and and also I'm a chess player. So when I was in high school, I didn't really play sports, but I played chess. And so the history here of that is really sort of intriguing. And so to be able to put that on my resume and have that interest of where, you know, just to have that interesting component to things seems like it's part of the, you know, a good part of the story.
Okay, because today, while I was at work, I was thinking, what should I ask you? And then I told my wife, I said, I'm going to ask you, do you miss a NASCAR or IndyCar, or do you miss a basketball, hockey, baseball, or American football? Because, you know, all Americans are in some way, you know, fans of one of these sports. But apparently,
yeah, I'm not. I'm like honest. Like I lived around Atlanta Motor Speedway, and I've been to but I was more of a music person and a concert promoter, concerts, and just and so I love music. I love musicians. And so I'd say that that's the one thing that I miss the most is the music and the music scene that's there. But it's been interesting to learn the music history here in Latvia, but it's, you know, it's not mine.
It's not Southern blues.
Yeah, oh yeah, blues and bluegrass and stuff like that. But even like things like Rage Against the Machine, you know. Some really some newer stuff, but the ultimately it's I just get a little uncomfortable because I know that Latvia is very particular about its culture, and it's and it's very proud of its legacy and its mark on it, and so it doesn't seem like there's a lot of spots where I should influence too much, because it would just be, it's a little unusual to where it's like the things that happen here, like I can be a guest, but at the end of the day, it needs to be Latvian promoters, Latvian artists, and then, you know, maybe there's some American musicians that come in as guest spots, but that's not the thing that's trying to permeate or trying to come in and creep into the culture in a way that's not invited.
Yeah. And it's trying to figure out like this, what in English we would call the sweet spot, right? Mm-hmm. So what do I bring of myself that is from this other place? And what do I, you know, how do I work with what's already here? But again, I think we've unfortunately come at a time where, you know, the local culture isn't like coming out, right? Everybody's kind of shut away and we're shut away. And so we're both at our two ends, even though we're in the same place. And before the pandemic, we were doing a little bit. We were just feeling like we were just starting to go out and meet people and find some places that we liked to go.
Well, and the system is modernizing in a way where you can sense that the system wants to have more of a community-based policing, so that they're not they just don't have the same aggression and maybe putting their time and resources into actual problems, and just a smarter system all the way around. And some of those problems are in the U.S. have just kind of made it to where the things that we've seen here have been a lot more sort of welcoming in the official sense, right? So you've got like what the government's setting up and doing, and then what the culture and the people, you know, are even able, or, you know, like it's not their place to accommodate a couple of Americans, you know, like that's just like not their spot. So, but as far as like the some of the lessons that the things that the American police need to learn, it seems like the lessons have already been learned here in Latvia over the years, and the way that they just carry on and behave just seems extremely professional. It seems like if you ever had a problem with them, that they would be able to solve their problems. And so it doesn't make sense for what we've lived through in the U.S. versus what we see here. It just seems like there's something missing with some of the training that where I guess what I'm saying is I think maybe Latvia might have some revenue possibilities for training our American cops.
But again, say if you talk about American cops, it all comes down to that it's like as they've been met with with violence. Most of people are carrying guns in America, which is actually, I don't know, probably only hunters are having guns like shotguns in a home.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't hold any handguns or stuff like that one, and that's why probably our police is more like you know, they mostly don't expect that someone will be carrying a gun.
Right.
So while in America,
yeah, and I think for an American, like Americans don't really realize how scary they are, and how like where there's times where I can be walking down the street and I'll be scared to death because I'm in another place, and all my life has been, you know, like this is basically the Soviet Union, right? This is the former Soviet Union. So there's a lot of things about this that I have to very well be aware of like, oh my gosh, there's this or that or what. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like there's some things that are just movies, but it's in my head, and because I'm the outsider and I'm the one that feels like I need to be like defensive and be ready on my guard, and because anything could happen to me at any time, all of a sudden I'll take a breath and I'll take a step back and I'll look around. I'm like, I think I might be the danger here. Like I might be the one that's the most dangerous person on the street, because I'm the one that's ready to lash out and, like, you know, like grab somebody or feeling like that's going to happen. And so the more, like, I'm not sure where that really comes from. Like if I'm bringing a lot of that, or if it's something that because I'm here, that's,
and you're out of your comfort
and I'm totally out of place. But it also kind of makes me a little nervous, because there's things around the way that you would just carry on with each other within your own culture, where if someone as an American was to do something to me, you know, you'd say something right back and not worry about the consequences or understand what the consequences would be. Here, I have no sense of what those consequences are, and so I find myself just sort of keeping my head down and staying on my best behavior, which is good.
I mean, you really become aware of the scripts of like how you interact with people, and that those aren't universal. So like you know how to walk into an office and ask the right question to get the person to do the thing that you need them to do. And then you go somewhere else and you realize, oh, if I say it in the exact same way that I'm used to saying things, it's not going to be accomplished in the exact same way. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, so how do I ask this person, or how do I accomplish this thing that I want to do? And it's such an odd feeling to have as an adult, because you've grown up, you've learned how to do everything, and then all of a sudden you're in a new place and you have to learn everything anew again. And it's such and your brain says, but you're an adult and you know how to do this. And then yet still you're like, oh, but the way I'm asking this question is not getting the right response that I'm normally used to. So now I have to figure out, or I have to ask someone, or, you know, or I have to trial and error until I get the right response.
Well, and it's so easy to feel very foolish here. So it's like
really anywhere, but for us, it's
sure anywhere.
It's having moved here, yeah.
Sure, anywhere. But I'm saying, like, when you go and you approach someone and they're just sitting there, like, you know, it's like you're coming, or you're like, hello, you know, like, and like you don't know that you look like a clown to them, or a fool, you know, just for like having a smile on your face. So
yeah, I experienced the same thing once. Okay, let's go back to comments. So my mom is asking a question about Mara's project Saprot, but we're going to go back a bit later. Christine is writing, Mara, Sylvia Alexis Phillips from Seattle does this work at mental field for youngsters. So maybe you should look after her, and you might get something from her. It could be interesting for you. And also Christine's saying, thank you all, very interesting. And Int is asking a question, what's your favorite Latvian food?
Me or Mara?
Well, both. One thing, viena lieta, ko es tikai Latvijā varu ēst, ko es, nu, ir vairākas lietas, ko es nevaru ASV sadabūt, bet es tieši vienmēr gribu krēmu ēst ar kaut kādu ķīselīti vai kaut ko tam līdzīgu. Un, protams, arī visas meža ogas un arī sēnes. Tās gašas ir tik daudzas un dažādas, un to vienkārši ASV nevar atrast.
Dallas?
Mine's probably Russell's.
Okay.
And as far as like things that are typically here, and the chicken vistas with ananas.
Yeah.
At Lido with the
chicken with pineapple. Yes.
Yeah.
Very Latvian.
Very Latvian.
It's in Latvia. I don't know.
Latvia,
maybe it's not Latvian.
Well, pizza.
And Schlosslicky.
Oh yes, Shashlik. Yeah, because one of the questions I was thinking to ask you: do you miss like a proper American style, like barbecue grill bar? You know, we have a massive steaks, pulled pork. You have a barbecue ribs. I've seen in so many TV shows. You know, you have such a succulent meat. You have a big
Yeah, there's some of that here where we've been able to find like a Charleston's barbecue, and there's a Georgian barbecue right down the street here. So I've been able to find some of that, and like the Schlosslicky will replace some of this. But yeah, like it's definitely noticeable. Just the amount, it seems like. But it's not that it's not here. Like it's definitely here, and people do have big meals here. There's just something about like for me, I think one of the big things that I miss is the casseroles, like big things of just like, you know,
throwing everything in
macaroni and cheese, yeah,
and
broccoli casseroles, things of that nature. More like what is it? The cream and chicken wild rice soup. mushroom wild rice casseroles, you know.
It's very particular because Riga
like
actually
things.
has like a lot of great ethnic restaurants. And so being used to eating ethnic food in other cities we've lived in, I mean, there's a lot that we've been able to find here. And so, yeah, the Georgians are doing some like excellent barbecue, and we are very picky about barbecue. And
the fish at the Central Market has been really great.
Yeah,
like, that's been something that's been like a big treat. Has been the amount of fish.
The only thing the one thing that we have not found a really good substitute for in Riga is American style Mexican food. Like a big Mexican restaurant, and not just burritos or tacos, because those are very popular right now and you can find those in Riga, but like actual Mexican food where they have like meat and sauce and rice and beans, and there are some people selling some things, you know, but it's mostly like we have to try to make something at home that's similar when we get that craving. But there's also things here like rosols and things that we now eat all the time that if we were there, we would be missing that too. So,
okay, good one. Let's go back to comments. We have a few more. So Christine, on the comments about U.S. cops, she's saying there's no training for cops in the U.S. Anyone who comes from U.S. Army can become a police officer. And then talking about a food, she said steak and corn and cob. That's her favorite. We have Agnes who joined, and she says, my family and I live in England, and Russell's is also my kids' English friends' favorite Latvian food. They love it.
Yes.
And my wife is saying, if there would be a pandemic, you could easily find what to do, where to go, and where to enjoy yourselves. And and that's kind of about this topic. And let's go now, because we're nearly an hour now in conversation. Let's talk about Māra. Parunāsim par tavu projektu Saprotu.
Jā.
Kā tu izdomāji viņu izveidot?
Nu, tā doma jau bija no paša sākuma, jo vīram vairāki vārdi iepatikās latviešu valodā, un viens vārds bija saprotu. Protams, viņš prasīja, kā saka, es saprotu vai es nesaprotu. Un tas vārds jau diezgan sen mums ir iegājis, bet pa šo pēdējo pusotru gadu vai cik tas ir bijis, pārceļoties ir bijusi daudz domāšana, vai ne, un kā angliski saka, introspection, vai ne, skatās uz sevīm un domā, ko tā kultūra tieši, ko tas nozīmē un kas ir ietekmējis mani no ASV kultūras, kuras uzaugu, protams, bet arī, ka es esmu dzīvojis un braukus uz Latviju agrāk un tagad patstāvīgi dzīvoju. Ko tas viss nozīmē? Un es sāku daudz par to domāt. No sākuma arī es jutos, kā teikt, ļoti vientuļa tanī domāšanā, ka es, ka vienkārši tas bija viss grūti, viss to, kā to teikt? Es nezinu, kā to teikt, bet
angliski.
Jā, es pat nezinu īpaši kā angliski pateikt, bet ka es sāku skatīties ekspertu Facebook grupās ar citiem cilvēkiem, kuri arī Latvijā apraukuši, un viņi arī par līdzīgām lietām runāja, un arī tieši par to garīgo veselību, mentālo veselību, ka ar to, ka tu pārcelies uz citu kultūru, ka tas ir normāli, ka tev grūtības ir, vai ne? Ka tu sāc daudz prašņāk, kas tu tāds esi un kas ir svarīgi tev, Un tā es tieši sāku sarunāties ar vairākiem cilvēkiem, kāds viņiem stāsts ir braucot uz šejieni, arī dažus latviešus, ko es pazinu, kuri tagad dzīvo ASV un arī citur. Un tā man sanāca vienkārši, ka gribējās publiski mazliet parunāties par to visu, un arī tieši angļu valodā, jo daudz kas ir pieejams latviešu valodā, bet arī es esmu konstatējis kopš dzīvošanas šeit, ka nav daudz angļu valodā par to, kā cilvēki iedzīvojās Latvijā. Tā man sanāca, ka es vienkārši sāku tās sarunas un ierakstīju, un tagad mēs cenšamies publicēt vismaz vienu sarunu katru nedēļas nogali mūsu Facebook lapas pusē, un doma ir tāda, kamēr enerģija ir un kamēr cilvēki ir, kuri grib dalīties ar savu stāstu, ka mēs cenšamies ar visādiem cilvēkiem no visas pasaules, un pašlaik tie cilvēki, kuri vai apbraukuši no Latvijas, vai latvieši, kuri citur braukuši, bet plāns varbūt ir arī iesaistīt cits cilvēks, kuri ir no vienas kultūras pārcelušies uz citu kultūru. Un viena lieta, par ko es daudz arī domāju, ko es agrāk nepieminēju, ir, ka es domāju, es jutos ļoti vientuļi tādā domāšanā, jo man cilvēkiem šādi ir grūti atklāti runāt par grūtām emocijām, un ka tendencija ir, ka viņi grib pateikt, tā vienkārši ir, tas vienkārši tā ir, vai man tā nav bijis, un to ir ļoti grūti dzirdēt, kad tev kaut kāda pieredze ir bijusi, ka tev kaut kas ir grūts bijis, vai tev nav iegājis tik cik viegli kā citam, un man gribējās tieši arī veidot tādu atklātu sarunu, lai cilvēki var dalīties, kas viņiem ir bijis grūts, un ka tas ir ok, ka viņiem ir bijis kaut kādi izaicinājumi, bet arī, kā viņi ir iedzīvojušies, un kā viņi ir atraduši tos draugus, vai to darbu, vai, tā mēs tur sarunājamies.
Jā, Kristīna jautā, kā sauc tavu Facebook lapu?
Jā, tā Facebook lapa saucās Saprotu, un Facebook adrese ir Es saprotu.
Jā. Un tev līdz šim ir bijuši jau 6 sarunas?
6 sarunas, un tad es pagājušo nedēļas nogali ierakstīju arī savējo stāstu puslīdz. Varbūt in the future we'll also interview Dallas on Saprotu.
This was my next question. Will Dallas gonna be in your show?
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually we'll have him tell his story too.
We'll write a script.
Look, Kristīna saka, thank you for that Facebook lapu. Jā, interesanti. Es tev uzdošu jautājumu, Māra, tā kā es uzdevu arī tavā sarunā pēdējā, vai tu nožēlo aizbraukšanu no Amerikas uz Latviju? And Dallas, the same question for you. Did you regret moving from US to Latvia?
Do you want to answer first, or do you want?
I'll answer first. No, not at all. I have no regrets. We may not stay, to be honest. But to say, like, I don't know if anyone. I can't even put a value on being able to be buffered here in Riga away from the 2020 episode that went down in the US. So I feel like we're the luckiest people in the world, to be honest with you, because we were able to see something coming ahead of time, get into this is her family's apartment, her mom's apartment. And so we were able to get into here and to just kind of be hunkered down, and where it's a little unusual, but that's what we've experienced. And it's not normal life for people, but it was what our life had been over the last year. And so there's nothing about that I would regret.
Jā, es arī nenožēloju. Es domāju, ka es būtu, ka es sev prasīju visu savu dzīvi, kā būtu patiešām aizbraukt un patstāvīgi dzīvot Latvijā, un to bija jāzina. Un laimīgā kārtā man bija saprotošs vīrs, un ka mēs varējām to izmēģināt, we could go on this adventure together, un mēģināt atrisināt tos jautājumus.
Well, and if you didn't know, right? It's like if you'd lived the rest of your life, always like, oh, I wish I had this or that, or now it's like this is like it happened, and everything is like that much better for it. There's just stronger connections all the way around.
Yeah. Un es domāju, kaut tas ir bijis ļoti grūts sometimes, ka tomēr daudz, kas ir iegūts no tā, ka mums ir bijis tas laiks sēdēt un domāt par sevīm un kā ASV mūs ietekmējis un kas mums arī šeit patīk un ko mēs varam no šeienes kādas idejas vai interesantas lietas smelt no šeienes. Tā jā, es stāstīju, tanī saprotu, tanī reizē, ka es par sevīm stāstīju, ka es teicu, ka es domāju, ka man vienmēr būs tāds saiknes ar Latviju. Bet, jā, jautājums ir vienkārši ar dzīvošanu, ar patstāvīgu dzīvošanu, to nevar zināt. Un vienkārši pašlaik neko nevar plānot. Tā mēs esam šeit Rīgā, bet kā būs uz priekšu, mēs īpaši nezinām.
Tagad, redz, jūs esat tādā sliktā laikā, tagad pārdzīvo sliktus laiks, tad nāk labi laiki. Tas nozīmē, ka tad jau varbūt būs vēl labāk, un tad jau, kāda tur Amerika, tāpat Latvijai fona. Sāksies vasaras festivāli. Tas, kas man patīk, teiksim, Latvijā, ir tas, ka ir tik ļoti daudz tie tiešām mūzikas pasākumu, pa brīvu apmeklējumu, jūs arī iet, izbaudīt mūziku, un tas Latvijā ir forši un skaisti, un daba ir skaisti, līdz ar to, es domāju, beigsies pandēmija, tad jūs varēsiet droši izbaudīt to Latviju pilnā laukumā.
Turam īkšķus, kad tas viss beigsies drīzumā.
Jā, skaidrs. Tā, lieti labi. Thanks, Dallas.
Yes, paldies, lūdzu. Liels paldies.
Jā. Liels paldies arī mūsu skatītājiem, kas mūs skatījās. Droši ejam uz Facebook lapu Saprotu, vai es saprotu, meklējiet Facebookā, un klausaties Māras sarunas, ja ļoti interesanti sarunas. Tie, kas saprot angļu valodu, tiem būs interesanti, jo cilvēki, kuriem Māra sarunājās, nāk no dažādām pasaules valstīm. Tā kā ir interesanti, un tie cilvēki dzīvo Latvijā, tas pats galvenais. Tā kā. Liels paldies Mārai, liels paldies Dallasam. Ar jums mēs vēl nedaudz aizkadrā parunāsim, bet pārējiem mēs teiksim paldies par šo vakaru. Tiekamies mēs jau rītdien. Rītā mums būs vēl viena saruna angļu valodā, kur mums būs spāņu dziedātājs Rafa Ferra no Maljorkas. Tā kā droši aicinām jūs pievienoties. Pirms tam būs saruna ar Daci Aperāni, kas ir Amerikas Latviešu Savienības tilts vadītāja. Tā kā būs arī interesants saruna pirms tam. Tā kā visi laipni gaidīt rīt un visi atlikušajā nedēļā. Mums ienācies viens komentārs. Paldies par sarunu. Thank you.
Jā, paldies.
Tiekamies ar jums aizkadrā, pārējiem paldies un tiekamies rītvakar. Visu labu!
Visu labu!
Kopā vienā laivā varētu